Hello, welcome to Astral Club. This is Rick, and this is my second video. I want to thank everyone for finding their way to this channel and for subscribing. Today's video is Astral Monsters. If there is one question that I get more than the others, it's questions surrounding what will happen to me if I astral project? Will I become possessed? Will monsters attack me? Will I be attacked by zombies? Who knows what kind of creatures on the astral plane? My first argument that I can present to you is myself. I have been astral projecting now since I was a small child. Thousands of astral projections, and I'm here in one piece, and my wife would tell you relatively sane. That's probably my single best argument to you. Now, is there flora and fauna that might be considered odd on the astral plane? Yes. I recall one time as a small child, I astral projected, and I was walking alongside the pavement near my house when a little elf-like creature hopped on my shoulder. It was quite shocked when I shooed it away because my feeling was it was used to riding on unconscious astral projectors, and it enjoyed going for these little rides, and it was shocked when I was aware of it and shoot it away. So people, I think, and this relates to what I just said, we all astral project. Everyone needs to understand that right away. What we're talking about here, what I'm trying to help people to do through this channel, Astral Club, is to consciously astral project. On a regular basis, I see unconscious people on the astral plane projecting, walking about like sleepwalkers. When I was first a little child, I would go up to them and try to engage them in conversation or ask them, where are we? What am I doing? And they wouldn't reply. They were like sleepwalkers. Later on, as an adult, I found myself waking up in the middle of an astral class. On the astral plane, there's a professor teaching a course on various universal principles to a bunch of sleepwalkers. The idea being that some of this information will sink in and they'll actually be able to take it with them when they wake up in the physical. I have woken up myself in several of these classes. And one of them happened years ago. And I recall the professor was talking about a holographic universe. And this was before any of this had been talked about in science circles. Unfortunately, I am not a scientist and I couldn't appreciate the complexities of what he was talking about. Quite frankly, I got up out of the class, waved to him, and took off on an astral projection. But you got people there every night on the astral plane like zombies, walking about either in a classroom or walking about like sleepwalkers. So you're already out there. You're just not conscious. So if possession, for instance, was something that happened to everybody as soon as they got out of their body, I would have thousands of spirits within me, and I can barely handle the one I've got called my soul. It's just not something that happens. Now, are there some weird things on the lower astral plane? Yes, there are. I recommend that as soon as you get out, you launch yourself into the sky, because when you're flying, your vibrational rate is higher and you're well away from any lower astral beings. So that's, I wanted to cover that as quickly as possible, because if there's one thing that is preventing people from astral projecting, or if they do astral project, to cause them to go back into their body very quickly, is fear. fear that they'll be injured, fear that monsters will attack them. One of my early projections to prove that my astral body was invulnerable and tough was to fly through the sun. And I did that. I was in space and I decided I was going to do my equivalent of firewalking. So I flew through the sun. I saw a lot of very interesting things going on in there, interesting layers, fantastic stuff that I can't possibly even describe to you. But I emerged on the other side in one piece, and I returned to my body, and I wasn't even a little bit warm. So, is it safe? Well, I can tell you one thing, it's at least as safe as any trip you've ever taken to New York City. I recall talking to a friend that I had who was from a suburban area, really in the sticks in Ohio. And he told me that he and his wife were going to be traveling to New York City, and he was a little on edge. He shared with me that he was frightened that once he and his wife got off the train or the bus, that they'd be attacked by mobs of roving bands of fierce New York City people, tearing them apart and stealing their money. I assured him that that would most likely not happen. And he went and they saw a play and they had themselves a great time. Now, did he see what he considered some weird entities? Yes, he did. But the bottom line is he returned to Ohio in one piece, and so will you when you astral project. Okay, that is our question for today. I'd like to share with you now an experience that I had in the past. And this one I call Seeing Through a Dino Croc's Eyes. Now, I had been astral projecting for over 5 decades since I was a young child. And normally, I just do boring stuff, like I fly in the night sky, I fly around the earth, that type of stuff, which I consider kind of pedantic and a little on the boring side. But occasionally I do things that are interesting. I travel in space, I ride on rocks around Saturn, and I do a lot of future trips, and we'll talk about those in the future. But I decided that I wanted to explore the distant past in this particular projection, and that's what I did. Leaving my body, I concentrated on locating ancient crocodiles. After a black moment of translocation, I lost consciousness, if you will, which normally happens when I do very long projections. I found myself at early dawn, hovering above a freshwater delta emptying into a sea. The sun was just a tiny yellow sliver on the eastern horizon. Below me, I saw large black objects on the sand, which I assumed were fallen logs at first. Upon focusing my attention, however, I saw that they were enormous crocodilians sunning themselves on a small beach just inside the delta. There were 6 of them, and they varied anywhere between 30 and 50 feet long. And for my metric folks, you're talking 12, 13, 14 meters. These are very large crocodilians. For fun, I decided I would land on one of their backs to make believe like I was riding a scaly horse. After all, I'm just a ghost from the future without an ounce of meat on me, so why not? I settled onto the back of one of the scaly beasts. Now, I cowardly picked the smallest one, although he still was around 30 feet. And I lay face down to grab on. Unfortunately, as I did that, as I grabbed onto his face, I just kind of idly wondered what it was thinking and if it knew I was there. Immediately, I was peering through its enormous eyes. My sight was incredible. I could see shapes and colors, even in that dim light, in a detail that I think would have put my human eyes to shame. But even more noticeable is I sensed a smell that was very keen, and I, or we in this case, determined that the smell was rotten meat, and that it was coming from a place that I could sense where it was, even though my human consciousness realized that it would be a long walk even for my human legs. Something that was even more concerning to me, though, is I realized that the smell of rotten meat I found pleasurable. Something that I don't normally react to when I smell that stimuli in my human body. As a further test of my control, though, I decided I was going to exercise a limb. And I took one of its large forelimbs and I scratched 1 plus 1 equals 2 in the sand to test my level of bodily control with our right webbed limb. The 2 I admit was a little sloppy, but if the sand fossilized, I thought, how freaked out would some scientist in about 75 million years be? I thought at the time. At any rate, as the sun rose and the crocodile's body began to heat up, I sensed a fight for control of the consciousness that was brewing. I didn't really want to test my limits any further, and doubting that I could convince this monster that higher mathematics would be worth me hanging around, I decided to head home. I woke up an instant later in my bed. P.S. I don't recommend actively trying to merge your consciousness with animals. It's something I have done in the past, and I'll talk about it in some future videos as well. However, it's very disturbing, it's very disorienting, and it's a very alien experience. And there are some side effects. For instance, for weeks after that, I occasionally smelled meat that was a little on the bad side, and I considered it a pleasurable smell. Luckily, I've lost that in that time. But just beware, this is not something I would normally recommend. Okay, well, that is my second video. We talked about the Astral Monsters and fears on the astral plane. And I talked about exploring 70 million years ago and seeing a giant crocodilian. If you can, I'd like you to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and I promise that I will get to them. So once again, thank you very much, and we will see you on the astral plane.